Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new rankings video. So today we're ranking the top 5 augments of all time in Tanki Online. There were a few requirements I had for an augment to be on this list. First of all, it can't be good for just a few months. There's a lot of augments that Tanki adds, especially in recent years, that's really good for a few weeks to a few months, and then it gets nerfed because they add a new augment, they have to kind of make some balance changes, and then it just kind of isn't all that great anymore. So an augment like Shock Tesla, for example, really good for like a month, but then Tanki nerfed it and now it's just kind of average. So augments like that aren't going to go in this list only because they haven't stood the test of time. This list is really letting you know which augments were really good when they first came out, were amazing for like a year to 2 years after they came out, and are still decent today. Now a few honorable mentions are of course Shock Tesla, like I just said. You have Faust for Striker, which was really good when it first came out, but is now kind of just mediocre. You also have Striker Missile Launcher Cyclone, which shoots the 8 Striker missiles. That was so OP for Juggernaut battles when it was first added. You have Incendiary Band for Vulcan, which a lot of people, if you had fire resistance on any of your holes, you could just shoot Striker non-stop and catch people on fire. It was really good. But without further ado, don't forget to use credit tag Taspens, and let's get straight into this list. So the number 5 spot's going to go to Swarm for Scorpion. Now this augment was first added in the summer of 2022, and honestly I think one of the main reasons it was so overpowered when it was first released was because the Scorpion turret was added like a month prior to the augment. Honestly, Tanki probably wanted to add something super overpowered that would convince people to use this new turret and actually spend crystals to upgrade it. Because I'll be honest, at the time I wasn't really a huge fan of Scorpion. I'm still not really a huge fan, mainly just because it's such a big looking turret. It's kind of ugly with most of the combos I use. But from a power standpoint, it was by far one of the most OP augments when it first came out, and is honestly still really good today. Like Tanki's constantly making balance changes to different turrets and adjusting how the parameters of the turrets work, but overall Swarm, even with the rebalancing of the augment and the buffing and nerfing, it still honestly stood the test of time and still very usable today, and that's why it gets the number 5 spot. So number 4 spot's going to go to Duplet for Hammer. So in late 2018, around Halloween time, Tanki added like a few dozen new alterations to the game. This was like the second wave of alterations. We had a first wave when they first initially added alterations. Very simple augments. I think that was back in like 2017, maybe a little bit earlier, probably around 2017, maybe early 2018. I did like the idea of alterations back then. And then when we got a bunch of these new ones in 2018, it kind of took alterations in a different direction. Now the augments were still balanced back then, but they were definitely really strong. So Duplet was one of the new augments or alterations. I'll just stick to augments because they've changed the name now. So this augment was first added in 2018, late 2018, around Halloween time, and it turned into my most used alteration for probably the next 2 to 3 months. One of the main reasons I used it so much was because this was before you had like extreme lightweight on your Wasp and Hornet holes. So you would use Duplet to shoot really fast and get some lift on your hole, and it made catching gold so much easier. And to be honest, it wasn't annoying to go against because it still took a decent amount of skill. Nowadays, you kind of just use one button, you press shift, you get your overdrive for Hopper, and you catch a gold easily. But back then, using Hammer Duplet was like a really good strategy to catch golds, and it was just such a fun augment to use back before overdrives were turned into the meta for catching golds. So number 3 spot's going to go to Uranium for Striker. So this augment was added in 2018 and was by far the most used augment for Striker. It was added in the same time area as Duplet, so Tanki added a bunch of really OP augments at the time. But again, to be fair, back then, they weren't super OP, they were just the strongest of what we had. And on top of that, Striker was added in late 2016, so it only had been like a year and a half since we had the new Striker turret, and everyone was still using it, so adding a super fun and OP augment for Striker at the time just meant like everybody was using it. Now it's always been pretty strong, but it did get nerfed around like 2021. But in recent months, if current players are watching this video, they'll know that Striker was recently buffed again and is now on top of the list of best augments in the game. And that's why it gets the number 3 slot. So number 2 is going to go to Pulsar. Now this is the only augment on the list that is an augment for every single turret. Now to be fair, Pulsar on some of the turrets isn't that great, but even today, Pulsar for like half of the turrets it's on is still a very powerful option. And oh my gosh, it was added in 2023, right? With Tanki funds, a lot of people got them. Basically every single person had the Pulsar augments because it was so easy to get them from Tanki funds. And this turned the meta of Tanki Online into probably one of the most annoying matchmaking experiences in the history of Tanki. This augment was so strong and so obnoxious to go against. It was like the main question, or at least one of the main questions I asked Hazel in the 2023 interview, and that was like, please, can we nerf this? And then we finally got a nerf in December of 2023, but even then, it's still like really strong, and it's like the #1 augment I go to on most of my turrets if I don't know what to choose for the turrets. But my gosh, people who played in 2023 when the Pulsar augments were first added know how bad matchmaking was because of them. Because they're not just OP, but they're also super obnoxious to go against because they literally remove all your supplies, stun you, give you jammer. It's just, oh my gosh, they were so annoying to go against. They're still annoying to go against, but at least it's not as bad today. But man, back then, holy cow, you could not go a battle without getting 2 to 3 enemies with the Pulsar augment. And so the #1 augment, in my opinion, this could probably be changed around a little bit with different augments in the game. It's going to go to Helios for Ricochet. Now, a lot of you might disagree, but honestly, it's probably first for me because of how much I used it. So it was first added in early 2022. This was like around the era we started getting these brand new turret changing augments in the game. It was also added during the time that Crisis was still the main drone everyone used because it gave you 70% increased damage back in the day. Now it only gives you 30%, but man, using Helios with Crisis 70% was the most OP combo and OP pairing you could use. Now Tanki did nerf this augment a few months after it was released, but even after that initial nerf, it was still the strongest augment in the game. It took like a full year after Helios was added for them to finally nerf it, not into the ground, but nerf it enough to where you can't really compete against people with protections. Now, even today, if people don't have a protection against Ricochet, you can still easily get kills with this augment, but the reload time nerf on top of the damage nerf it got makes it not the strongest today, but still a good option if you don't have anything else. I also liked using this when I grinded out Firebird Demonic in the Elite Pass. That was my main combo I used, was Hopper, Ricochet, Helios with Crisis Drone. You would play Assault Battle, you'd finish an Assault Battle on the attack team in like 2-3 minutes, and you could farm so many stars because of how overpowered Helios was, and you could just charge into the base and finish games really easily. But yeah, that's my list of the top 5 strongest augments of all time in Tanki Online. Let me know what you think the strongest augment of all time was in Tanki Online in the comments down below. I'm interested to see what you guys think. Don't forget to use code Taspens. I'll see you in a future video. Peace out, everybody.